Ryan Holle is one of the most well-known figures in the discussion of the controversy surrounding the Felony Murder Rule. In 2004, he was found guilty of first-degree murder under the Felony Murder Rule for simply lending his car to a friend at a party. Holle grew up as a military kid who excelled in school and led a quiet life. As an adult, he gave his mother away as she married his stepfather. His friend Jessica Snyder attended the wedding. A few days later, Holle hosted a house party at which Jessica was also present. Ryan's roommate, William Allen Jr., was dating Jessica. On March 10, 2003, the morning after the party, Allen asked to borrow Holle's car keys and he agreed. Allen revealed to friends that Jessica's mother kept a safe in the home, which they believed to contain $20,000 in cash. At some point, he and the other individuals involved started talking about going to rob Jessica's house, planning to steal drugs and money. Holle said they also talked about going to get food. He went back to sleep. When he woke up and his car wasn't back, he called Allen, who said they were about to break into the home. Holle says he didn't believe them and didn't take it seriously, so he again went back to sleep. Allen drove the group to Jessica's home, but when they first arrived, her sister was still there, so they waited for her to leave for school. Once they entered the home, they forced Jessica into a back room. Allen, her boyfriend, stayed behind in the car. At some point, she started screaming, and the burglary turned violent when one of the men, Charles Miller Jr., used a shotgun from the home to attack her, resulting in her death. She was just 18. After they'd removed a pound of marijuana and over $400, they rushed back home with the safe in tow. Ryan was awoken by the sound of the group driving through his back fence. He realized what happened once he saw the safe and the blood on Miller's clothes. The loud banging to open the safe garnered attention from a neighbor who called police. All of the men were handcuffed and taken in for interrogation, during which Ryan fully cooperated. He admitted everything he knew leading up to the murder. During the investigation, Miller confessed to the killing himself, which took place while Ryan Holle was over a mile away from the scene. Under the Felony Murder Rule, a person can be sentenced to life in prison even if they didn't kill anyone, even if they weren't there, and even if they didn't know the crime was taking place. By this rule, Ryan was charged for Snyder's murder along with the other 4 men. Holle was the only person involved to be offered a plea bargain. The circumstances of this deal could have resulted in a sentence of only 10 years, but he refused the deal. Obviously, it could be difficult for a young man with no history of criminal activity, no rap sheet, to think of pleading guilty to a murder or accepting a decade of imprisonment when he felt that he hadn't done anything wrong. So he took his chances and went to trial. He says his attorney advised him not to take the deal because he was innocent. She was so sure of his chances, she told his family to bring him a change of clothes to use once he walked away as a free man. Had he known fully about the Felony Murder Rule, he says he absolutely would have taken the plea deal. Holle's August 2004 trial lasted just 1 day, including his sole testimony, jury deliberations, his conviction, and his sentencing. According to the logic of the prosecutor, no car equals no murder. Snyder's father agreed, saying it would have never happened unless Ryan Holle had lent the car. It was as good as if he was there. The driver admitted the only role Holle played was providing permission to use the car, saying, quote, "Nobody really knew she was going to get killed. It was not in the plans to kill anybody." Very rare is it for a felony murder conviction to stand when the convicted was not even present. The premeditation charge he received suggests that Holle knew his car would be used in the course of a murder, which is hardly believable when the men who were actually present didn't even plan to end it that way. As his roommate, Holle had lent his car to William Allen numerous times in the past. All of the men who used his car had attended the party at their house that night, as had Jessica Snyder. He says he thought they were going to get food when they asked to borrow his car. When they actually mentioned a potential robbery involving removing a safe from the Snyder home, he thought it was only a joke. He also says the alcohol he consumed during the party further impaired his understanding of the situation. Jessica had just been in attendance for the party, but she was also the girlfriend of his roommate, so he may have been less likely to see it as a serious threat. The prosecutor told the jury that even if it didn't make sense, he had to be treated just as if he had done all the things the other four did. Prosecutors sought the death penalty for Charles Miller, the man who actually killed Jessica, but he was sentenced to life without parole. The other men who entered the Snyder's home with him, Donnie Williams and Jermon Thomas, along with the driver, William Allen, were given the same sentence. Ryan Holle, who was at home in bed at the time of the robbery, was also convicted of first-degree murder under the Felony Murder Rule. Even without a criminal record, he was given the same sentence as the others. Felony Murder Rule in various forms broadens murder liability for participants in violent felonies in two ways. The first is an unintended killing during commission of a felony. The second is, as Ryan Holle's case, a killing by an accomplice to such crimes. This concept can be traced to English common law, though Parliament abolished it in 1957. India and other common law countries eventually followed suit, and in 1990 the Canadian Supreme Court did away with liability for accomplices, saying it violated the principle that punishment must be proportionate to the responsibility of the offender. As it stands in the USA, the Felony Murder Rule says anyone found to be responsible in any way for a felony in which a murder takes place is as guilty as the person who committed the murder. The Felony Murder Rule requires a person to possess what's called conscious intent, which means they must have intended to assist in the criminal event. The predicate felonies that support a charge of first-degree murder under the statute include crimes such as robbery or home invasion. If a person committing a predicate felony directly contributed to a death as a result, that person will be charged with murder in the first-degree felony murder, which is a capital felony. The only two sentences available for that statute are life in prison and the death penalty. If a person commits a predicate felony but didn't directly contribute to the death of the victim, the person will be charged with murder in the second-degree felony murder. Most countries have done away with this rule, so there's still debate concerning its practice. Prosecutors sometimes justify the rule by suggesting that it deters murders. Criminals aware of the fact that they stand to face severe punishment if someone dies in the course of a felony may think through their crimes more carefully, may refrain from using deadly weapons, or may decide not to commit the felony at all. On June 24, 2015, Holle's sentence was commuted by Governor Rick Scott from life without parole to 25 years in prison and 10 years of probation. He is now set to be released in 2024. Some take the position that Jessica Snyder's parents were more responsible for their daughter's death than what was explored at the time. Apparently, her mother served 3 years in prison for selling drugs, and some people feel they should have never been involved in selling drugs from their home. By doing so, they may have inadvertently put all inhabitants of the home in harm's way. Some even feel the parents, by engaging in illegal activities, bear more responsibility to Jessica's fate than Ryan Holle. Is this an inappropriate perspective, or is it actually realistic?